What's going on, guys? It's your boy Andy Arts. I'm back with another video, and today we're going to talk about art software because I've messed around with a couple of art software. I messed around with Painter. I messed around with Ibis Paint. I have Photoshop. I had Clip Studio. I've tried Procreate, and as popular as Procreate is, actually, I guess one of the few people who was kind of like unhappy with it. So what's this video about? So this video is about how to choose an art software. How to choose, right? Because especially if you're starting out, it sometimes it's kind of you don't know where to start. Because now in the age of technology, there's so many softwares. But the truth is, once you figure out, let's say if you figure out Photoshop, how to use Photoshop or how to draw in Photoshop, you pretty much figure out most of the softwares out there. The only thing is that the user interface is a little bit different. I can tell you that Clip Studio, although the user face is different than Photoshop, it is the tools are definitely very similar, and you can figure things out rather quickly. Especially if you were a graphic design student. So let's go over the top 3 popular ones. That's Photoshop, Procreate, and Clip Studio. These are the top 3, the big 3 that most people like to use. And then of course there's others like Ibis Paint, but those Ibis Paint is not considered like an industry professional software. So let's go ahead and move on. So let's start with Photoshop. Okay, so Photoshop, the pros about Photoshop is that it can do anything. You can edit photos, you can edit images, you can do a whole bunch of stuff with Photoshop. It's the industry leading software for graphic designers, illustrators, and if you're a character designer, doing character designs for video game companies, Photoshop is the way to go. It's easy to make brushes in Photoshop. At least that's my opinion compared to Clip Studio. So Photoshop, it's a legendary software, it's the first one, and yeah, although the concept about Photoshop is that although you can draw and paint on Photoshop, it is primarily a photo editing software. Okay, a photo editing software. That's primarily what it was made for. But of course, it expanded and over the years, and you can do so much with Photoshop. It's crazy. So Photoshop is not exactly it was not exactly made for drawing and coloring. And you can tell by just looking at the user interface. Sure, there's brushes, it's got a whole bunch of tools there, but I've used Photoshop, and blending on Photoshop is kind of annoying. Like I feel as though it takes more work to blend, to render an illustration on Photoshop than it does in Procreate or Clip Studio. That's what I found. Another annoying thing about Photoshop is that when Adobe makes an update, sometimes you gotta have to relearn certain things. Like, for example, the saving feature on Photoshop, you can't just go to save as. Now you have to go to save as copy to save it as a JPEG file or a PNG. That's absolutely ridiculous. But hey, we don't make the rules, right? So that's Photoshop. If you want to be like a professional graphic designer, or like if you want to be like a professional, if you want to work for like a video game company, like to do concept art, environment designs, things of that nature, Photoshop is the way to go, right? It is, when you get hired for a job, you're gonna have to use Photoshop one way or another. Procreate. Let's go ahead and move on to Procreate. And Procreate can pretty much do everything related to art. Okay, related to art, not graphic design, but related to illustration, painting, coloring, drawing, even making comic books. Right? I've seen people make comic books on Procreate, so not sure what the features are on that, but it's possible. It's very possible. I've seen people do it. Procreate is a great tool, and I think Procreate has a lot of great features. Like if you want to make like art for merchandise, like for prints and stuff like that, and like what do you call it, like acrylic stands and things like that. It's great. It's great to create print and art merchandise. It has like a lot of great settings for that, right? Procreate brushes are also really good. I've seen some Procreate brushes. Those things work like magic. Some of those brushes, I wish I could download them over to Clip Studio. I still have yet to figure that out. I spend most of my time on Clip Studio, guys. So I'm not a Procreate expert, but I've used it. And the cons about Procreate is that there's a limit of layers. And the reason why there's a limit of layers is because it has to do with the computing power of your iPad. So if you have an iPad and you're working on a piece that required that, and you build up like 30, 40, layers, then it's gonna, Procreate is probably not gonna let you create certain layers at some point because you have to rely on the computing power. So if your iPad only has like 4 RAM, 6 RAMs of computing power, then you're probably not gonna be able to make more than like 20 layers. There's a limitation. Okay, I don't know too many people that have made 20 layers, but they're out there. The other con about Procreate is that it is exclusive to the Apple Store, so you need an Apple computer, an iPad, and iPad Pro, iPhone, whatever it is that you want to use. And so you really cannot get it for Windows or any other platform, right? It's stuck on the Apple Store. But one of the most annoying things that people have found is the layer limits, right? Me personally, I have used Procreate, but I am not an iPad person. Okay, I don't like Apple products. I don't like Apple computers. I don't like iPads. I don't like iPhones. You can sell me an iPhone all day. I still prefer a Samsung over an iPhone. I mean, I don't know. The iPhone and Apple products, they seem such dull. It's such a bland. Bland computer, because you have like the Samsung has like so many things, so many features. And I guess the great thing about Apple products is like the hardware is very strong, but like it's such a bland product, in my opinion. I prefer a Samsung. I've always been a Samsung type of guy, but hey, it's your choice. And finally, we have made it to Clip Studio. Clip Studio, which is the one I'm using right now, which is the one that you're seeing right here on the screen. Clip Studio is specifically designed for drawing. Okay, this was a Japanese software. It was back then. It was called I think it was called Manga Studio. Yeah, I think back in the 2010s it was called Manga Studio, but they switched it to Clip Studio Pro, and it's been doing great ever since. And yes, this is designed mainly for drawing. It was originally for a manga and just like pencil drawing, coloring. But things have changed, right? So if you're a manga artist, comic book artist, if you're planning on making a comic book artist, Clip Studio Pro is the software to use. Okay, so I highly recommend it. I use it for drawing, coloring, and creating, the art that I make here. But I highly, highly, highly recommend it for you guys. So if you want to make a comic book. If you're into like black and white drawings, Clip Studio is perfect for that. They have a lot of options where you can optimize a lot of settings for black and white drawings. Let's just put it that way. But at the same time, you can create all types of art with Clip Studio. That's the great thing about it. Environments, all that stuff. It's an illustration software. It's just an overall great illustration software. And the tools, the user interface, the tools on Procreate, they are designed for drawing. It's opposed to Photoshop, there's a lot of stuff there that's just kind of like for photo editing. But and the great thing about Clip Studio is just the tools for drawing and coloring make everything so much faster. Your workflow is much faster and very efficient. For example, the paint bucket tool, you can when you drag it on the screen, you can paint multiple things. And the program is created in such a way where you don't have to be in the line art layer to color. You can be under the line art layer. It's just so great. It just helps you work faster, more efficient. And I absolutely love Clip Studio Pro, and I am not going back to Photoshop whatsoever. So yeah, it's hands down the best art software that to meet all of your needs: illustration, painting, environment design, character design, comic books, manga, everything you can think of, except graphic design stuff like photo editing, But yeah, whatever you would do on a sketchbook or on a canvas, you can do it in Clip Studio. is the absolute pro. And actually, I think a lot of professionals are now choosing Clip Studio over Photoshop. So that's something that's changing in the industry. So I highly recommend you try out Clip Studio. So there it is. Photoshop, Procreate, Clip Studio Pro. Guys, if you like this video, please make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to comment below. Tell me what you think. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for future notifications. Everybody, it's your boy, Andy Arts. And I'll see you in the next art video. Godspeed.